Hey crew, what it do? It's your girl, A-True. You guys are watching my YouTube channel. We continued to date. He ended up getting to stay until I think the last week of August. Honestly, his job kept getting pushed back because they didn't finish in time, and we got really lucky. And when he left, we didn't make any set plans, set in stone plans. He made promises. He was like, I'm not gonna go another year without seeing you, we will find time to see each other. And he's like, I want us to go to Disneyland together, and I want to take you to North Carolina for the first time, and I want us to go spend a month in Alaska camping together. We talked about a future. We didn't set anything. We were never you're my boyfriend, you're my girlfriend. I knew even that time that he left, if he had asked me to go through the drive-through wedding chapel, I would have. I would have done anything to be with him, but he didn't want to commit, and I couldn't make him, and I felt like if I tried and forced him, or if I gave him an ultimatum, that I would scare him off or push him away. And this is probably where a lot of people are thinking, well, yeah, homegirl, if he wouldn't commit, there's a reason. And I think I was too in love, maybe, I don't know. I tried really hard to keep my head on straight and not to see him as perfect, because there were times when we dated that he was here, when he would hurt my feelings and he would make me cry, and that I saw that he wasn't perfect, that I saw his flaws and I accepted them, and I was we would talk about them and we would talk it out and we would work it out. And it's not the point. I'm going to tell you guys about the last day that I ever saw him, in person. In person, where I could reach out and touch him. I had asked him which day he wanted to hang out, Saturday or Sunday. And he chose Saturday, and that's important for later in the story. So I actually had to work Saturday, but I wanted to see him, so I called off. In our original plan, he told me that he had to work until about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So he was like, let's hang out around 3 o'clock. And I was like, okay. I was supposed to work at 4. So that was when I was like, well, I'm just going to call out, because I don't, obviously, that's not going to work. Friday night, when I was at work, he texted me and said, hey, if we had to push our plans back to about 6 or 7, would that ruin things? And it kind of did, honestly, but I was like, I'm not going to tell him, not to work or not to go to work. What kind of girl would I be if I was, throwing a fit because he had to go to work? So I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but, we'll work around it if you have to work. Whatever, we'll figure something out. And he was like, okay, cool. And then, this is kind of a weird text that I would send next, but if you know my life, you know why I said it. But I was like, hey, I really don't want to be at home all day tomorrow, though. So I'm going to, go do things during the day. So can you pick me up from somewhere else, or can I meet you at your house and we can go on our date from there? And he never responded, which is really weird for him. He's never not responded to me. He's never not, answered. He's taken a long time to answer before, but not, once we had plans, I texted him that around 1 a.m. when I got off, and I expected to have a response when I woke up the next day, and I didn't. So our plans were, he said 6, 7-ish. So around 5 o'clock p.m. when I still hadn't heard from him, I texted him again and was like, you're making me kind of nervous. If it's a big deal, you can pick me up from my house. And still nothing. 6 o'clock, nothing. 6:30, nothing. 7 o'clock, nothing. 7:30, nothing. 8 o'clock, nothing. 8:30, I get a phone call from him. And he's like, I'm so sorry, things took so much longer than I thought they would. I'm headed home right now, I'm going to text you the address, meet me there. I'm so sorry. And I was like, okay, thinking he just got held up at work. I don't even really know where to take this story from there, because it just gets bad. from this point on. I arrive at his place, and he like gets in the car and he's like, I'm really sorry, like I didn't think, you know, the day would take this long, like we were supposed to be back around like 6, you know, I'm really sorry. And I was like, what happened? Like, did, you know, like trying to ask questions about his job. And he was like, well, I didn't actually work today. I went climbing with, we'll call this guy Brian. I went climbing with Brian. You know, he asked me if I wanted to go last night, and I said yes because, you know, the hike was only supposed to take, or the climb was only supposed to take till like 4, and, you know, we were going to be back by 5 and I could see you by 6. And I immediately was like really hurt because Brian had been my biggest competition the whole time that Gabe was here the first time around, because Gabe loves to go rock climbing more than anything on planet Earth, and I'm afraid of heights, so I could never go with him. And also, he's like one of those legit rock climbers that like puts the thing in the rock and then like shimmies up it, you know? So he's not like at a facility, like he's out there on red rock just free falling. And Brian could do that too. So it was something that I was never able to do with him, or really had a desire to, because I'm afraid of heights, you know? So there were a lot of times where I'd be like, do you want to do this? And he'd be like, sorry, like I'm gonna go climbing with Brian. And I would never tell him not to, because again, what kind of girl would I be then? Like, you know, and I wasn't his girlfriend. But even if I was, I would never tell him not to go climbing or not to go hang out with his friends. But I was hurt that day because I was like I called off of work to hang out with you. Like, that's how much spending time with you means to me, and that's what I'm willing to do for it. And I know a lot of people might think that that's like really stupid, but it wasn't something that I would do all the time. But it was just like, if I didn't do it that day, I wasn't going to get to see him. And with his job, we just never knew when his last day was going to be. So to me, every single moment was precious. You've already been climbing twice with Brian, like this week, because you guys haven't been working. You know, like you couldn't tell Brian, like, no, I have plans with Ashley. Then he was like, I have something else to tell you. And I was like, okay. And he's like, while Brian and I were climbing, I got a call from his boss. And he was like, my boss says that the job is canceled and we need to go home tomorrow. So today is my last day. And I was just like, jaw to the floor, shocked. Looking back, like I should have said, so let me get this straight. Like, you left me sitting in a Target parking lot for hours not knowing where you were, what you were doing, or who you were with, when you clearly had your phone and were able to get signal because you answered your boss's call, but you didn't want to tell me where you were because you knew that I'd be mad because you were climbing with Brian when you and I had plans. And you asked me last night if we could push back our plans, which means you knew that you weren't going to work today. And you still chose Brian over me. And now, I don't even get to be mad about it, because it's your last day with me, and we can either end it on this horrible note, or we can try and salvage what few hours we have left together. And then, to put the cherry on top, we're sitting there, and his phone goes off, and it's in between us. It's like on the center console of my car, and a name pops up, Michaela. And I know who Michaela is, like, vaguely. Okay, so I knew who Michaela was. He had mentioned Michaela once to me before, and he said that she was a girl who worked at the gym. He never once mentioned, like, we exchanged phone numbers, like, we're friends, she knows my name, I know her name. Like, I thought he knew her name because of, like, her name tag. My surprise when her name popped up on his phone, and, like, I couldn't even hide it. I literally have no poker face. I, like, looked down and I was like, does that say Michaela? And he was like, yeah, but, like, don't worry about that. He's like, it's just gym stuff. And in my head, I'm like 12:30 at night. Like, neither of you were at the gym. What gym stuff? So once he left, things were not the greatest, but they were good. We didn't talk every day, but we talked enough, and we would FaceTime all the time, and sometimes he would ask for a FaceTime, sometimes I would ask for a FaceTime, sometimes we didn't talk for a couple days, and you know, that was fine. I felt like we were doing really well, and we were, you know, in a good place, and made a commitment to stay friends and to stay in each other's lives and to still tell each other what was going on and what was happening with us. The point is, Gabe and I were great until the month of December hit. So he left in August, like the last week of August, so basically he was gone September, October, November, and then December hit. And obviously he was still gone. And there were just a lot of things that happened in December that should have been like red flags. Well, they are, and I guess they were. You know, we didn't talk for like 2 weeks. He didn't answer like my phone calls or my texts. And both of our birthdays are in December, and we're 2 days apart, and mine is first. And I really thought like he was not gonna say happy birthday. I thought he'd forget. I thought he was done and just like wasn't brave enough to say it. But to my surprise, on my birthday, I woke up to a really sweet, like, long text from him. This isn't completely part of the story, but my grandma also died on my birthday this year. And so it was a really weird, hard, rough day. And I told him, you know, like, thank you. And then I was like, I have to tell you something, you know, and I told him that my grandma died, and he just really didn't care. He wasn't there for me, like, in any way. Like, we wished each other Merry Christmas, and then New Year's Eve came. And I texted Gabe, and I asked him if we could have a FaceTime date, you know, later that night when I got off, because I got off around 4 p.m. And he took hours to respond, which wasn't that unusual for him, but he took a long time. So by the time he replied, it was like 8, 9 o'clock, and he just basically said, no, I'm going to be busy with my friends tonight. And looking back, I may have overreacted a smidge to it, but I was just like, oh, okay, like, sorry, I didn't mean to make it seem like I would keep you on the phone for the next, like, 3 hours, you know, till midnight. I just wanted to see you and wanted to talk to you before we both went out and did our separate things. He texted me the next day, and he apologized. But I just kind of knew. I just had this feeling like he was done, and I was pushing him away because I was being clingy and needy and, you know, just constantly asking him for FaceTimes and texts, and he wasn't responding. And so I didn't want to be that girl either, so I told him that I thought I should give him some space, and that we should give each other space, you know, and we should take some time to, like, just figure things out, I guess. And I really wanted to work on being his friend. He said from the beginning that he wanted to take it slow and that he wanted to be like just friends, and then, you know, if something came of that, great. And it was me and like my issues, because I'm gonna say this once and then I'm not gonna talk about it because I don't like to talk about it, but like, I have been used and abused by guys since I was like 7, so that's all that I know. So when a guy doesn't want that from me, it's like I don't know how to process that he still likes me. And Gabe would try and tell me all the time that he still liked me, even if he didn't want to do that stuff with me. And so I never knew which signals I was supposed to take from him. Did he like me? Did he not? Did he want to be with me? Did he not? You know, was he pulling away or was he putting up a wall? I haven't been able to get answers for so long, but I was serious when I said that I wanted to take space and get a break from him, because the whole month of December, all that kept happening was I was getting my feelings hurt, and I was getting disappointed in the way that he was acting, and I realized that I was putting these expectations on him, and I was expecting, like, boyfriend actions from him. You know, like when my grandma died, I expected him to be there and come be by my side, and he didn't do it. And when he hurt my feelings, I expected him to apologize and, you know, just profusely apologize, and he didn't do it. And I would get disappointed and I would get hurt, and then I realized, you know, like, he's not my boyfriend, and maybe he's starting to show me that he doesn't want to be, or maybe he just needs space, maybe he just needs time, so that's what we'll give him.